different way. So therefore, but he had a lot of money and what else have you for that idea. And now, the United States has what we call the Vulcan system. We have computers and radar hooked up to a Gatling gun. They call it the Vulcan gun now. It fires now 5,000 rounds per minute from his invention. Over here, there's Governor Wallace. There's not too much about him, I'm going to tell you about him, but anyway, he had a son. His son was named Lew Wallace. Lew Wallace. Lew Wallace was a recruiter here in Indiana, and he wanted to be a hero. He wanted to be a hero. And so, by his daddy being a governor, and he knew Morton, and Morton knew Abraham Lincoln, so he talked to them and said, hey, I want to be a hero, and the only way I can do that is send me east. And so, they sent Lew Wallace east to be a hero. So, he got his chance, but he messed up. He misunderstood his orders. One of the generals told him to attack Lee from the west flank, and he forgot and attacked Lee from the rear. It took him about 3 or 4 hours to do that. Okay, at Antietam, that's where the thing was, and they lost so many battles there. I think there are 4,000 men who lost their lives in 1 hour in Antietam, Union and Southern. 4,000, can you imagine that? In 1 hour. But anyway, the general will send you up the other way, and they have boom, 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 and then they'd run away, and then they come back again, boom, boom, boom. But anyway, so his peers didn't like him, and they said, hey, you going back to Indiana because you messed up. And so he came back to Indiana and started recruiting soldiers. Like I said, he was getting all kinds of soldiers because they needed them. So he comes back with the idea of being a hero again. And so his daddy was what? A governor, and the governor knew Morton, and Morton knew Lincoln. And guess what happened? Lew Wallace goes back to be a hero in the East. However, his peers says, we're not letting you command soldiers. We're going to put you for conscientious objectors, or people who have religious beliefs. They didn't want to fight the war with us, have you? There was 2,700 of them, and he was responsible for them. And so, that was his light, he thought. Okay, Grant was trying to find Lee, and he said, well, I'll try to find his capital, and then he'll probably fight me there. And the capital of the Confederacy was Richmond, Virginia. Okay, so Grant goes to Richmond, Virginia, but Lee says, hey, I'm going to let you have Richmond, Virginia, because there's some people there in Washington, D.C. called Copperheads, and he found support there, and he said, if I can beat people there in Washington, D.C., the war was over with. And he was right. Okay, however, our man Lew Wallace said, hey, I can't let this happen. So he took those 2,700 men, gave him a skirmish line, and he had them fire their weapons and marched them 30 miles outside of Washington, D.C. and set this skirmish line up. Okay, Lee was coming up the Washington, D.C. road and what else have you. Those guys did a superb job. They held Lee up for 1.5 days for Grant to get back to Washington, D.C. And now, guess what happened? Our man, Lew Wallace, he's a hero. He comes back to Indiana and becomes a hero just like that. Now, they told me to tell you guys this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. In Christmas time, in Easter time, there's a movie comes on. It's been doing for 30 or 40 years. Everybody loves this movie about this Jewish boy and this Roman general, and they have these chariot race around the thing. And what have you? Where am I going with this? I need some help with this. This Jewish boy and this this Roman general, and they. Okay, yeah, I heard something. Ben-Hur. Who did that? Lew Wallace. Okay, come over here. stands for United States Colored Troops. United States Colored Troops. When the Civil War started, the Republicans, and especially the Democrats, didn't want colored folks to fight in the war, especially Democrats. And so they said it's a white man's war, and the white men will fight it out. However, Johnny Reb was whooping heads and taking names, and we start losing a lot of men. And therefore they said, hey, we're going to need some help. So they let the colored troops fight in the Civil War. Indiana had the 28th Colored Troop Regiment. I'm a reenactor, so I'm Chaplain Gordon White of the 28th Colored Troop. But anyway, so they fought quite bravely. There were 600,000 soldiers who lost their life fighting in the Civil War. 600,000, North and South. It was quite a deadly fight that was. The only war we had that lost that many people. Like I said, at Antietam, we lost 4,000 men in 1 hour. There was a guy by the name of Burnside, and he sent his men over a bridge, and the creek was only about 2 feet deep. And so he said, no, Johnny Reb was waiting for the people to come across the bridge, and he sent all his men across this bridge. It was about this wide. And he was stacking the bodies like that. Instead of going in the creek, he sent them guys there, and that was quite bad. But that's just a story there. Believe it or not, there were over 219,000 colored troops who fought in the Civil War. 219,000. 35,000 lost their lives fighting for this country of ours, and 15 of them made medal. 15 they won Medal of Honor. 15. Subsequently, the last guy who got a Medal of Honor was President Ben Clinton, and as a result, now we have 29 guys who got Medal of Honor. That's the first time we had Medal of Honor in 1861. Okay. We have a marker up here that says Newbie. In May, everybody comes by here and what else have you? We have 5 guys who founded the 500-mile race. Newbie, Carl Fisher, James Allison, my General Motors person, and Wallen back over there. In 1909, they purchased some land on the west side of Indianapolis, skirmish line, and they started the race in 1909. Okay, it was all gravel. So, believe it or not, that first race they had to call it off because, especially Carl Fisher did, because they was killing people all over the place. I ain't kidding, they were running into people and stuff like that, wrecks and stuff like that. And so they said, oh, I know what we do. We would invent something so we don't have no more wrecks like that. And so we still use that in our automobiles today. And the thing is that the inventor was,
Seatbelt?
Brakes.
Brakes.
stoplight, no.
Bumper.
The rear view mirror. Because they didn't know who was behind them, and they would turn this way and that way and whatever have you. Also, Carl Fisher made Newbie buy 302,000 bricks to take off of that gravel. They had gravel first, and thus they called that brickyard. Okay.
Oh.
The next thing we're going to do is Lucy Ann Stevens, the first person buried here. Okay, people, I'm 75 years old. Come on here.